roll up, everyone's a winner. Why don't you try your luck?
You being such an Anglophile, Sebastian Vettel, I thought you'd like a visit to a proper British fairground before the next race.
Yeah, Adrian, you and me old Chinas. This is most true. This is wonderful. What is this stall here?
It's a game of skill and chance where you have to throw a ping pong ball, and if you manage to get into one of those goldfish bowls there, you win a prize. We call it hoopla.
Hoopla! God blimey, Ecky Thumb. Oh, what's this over here?
In this one, you have to throw a wooden ball and knock those coconuts off those posts there.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Proper old British game, this. We call it a coconut shy, because shy is the old English word for to throw.
Oh, you learn something new every day. Oh, Adrian, look! They've got a driving game over here!
Oh, yeah, Sebastian, that's the Dodgems. Probably better if you stay off that one.
Hello, welcome to Gareth Jones on Speed. I'm the Gareth, he's the Zog.
Hello.
And no Richard, because he's off doing something slightly more important, but more on that later.
Yes.
The less important thing that we have to discuss, although, quite frankly, Formula 1 is important to me.
Very important to me.
Brings
and
me
all
my
right-thinking individual.
Yeah, quite right too, yeah. It retains that stability in my life that I've been searching for since I was a child. There will always be a Formula 1 race between March and October, apart from those 3 weeks in August when we all go off on holiday and pretend we're not thinking about Formula 1 for 3 weeks.
There you go.
But anyway, it came back, and it comes back at Spa, which is brilliant. That's a great thing, that when F1 does come back, it doesn't come back to, Bahrain or, some bland track. It comes back to a Spa, which is one of the most visceral of races. And
coming back with a classic,
a
big event. What a track. It's a track the drivers love, and I think, all the fans love it. And it produced the kind of race you want to see, a bit of excitement. As always at Spa, it rained, and that made it more exciting, forcing everyone to make the right decisions about tyres and the change of conditions. It produced just one of those wonderful races, highlight of the year.
Here's your thoughts. If Spa wasn't actually on the edge of is it the Ardennes forest there?
I think it is, yeah.
Yeah. Where it's so permanently wet. If it was, say, in Dubai, for instance, where it never rained, would Spa be half as interesting a circuit? The fact that you can almost guarantee rain in Spa adds spice to the event, doesn't it?
It does, but you say, would it be half as interesting? I reckon it would be about half as interesting, because you've got, because you've got, you've got, in all seriousness, you've got a great circuit lay, you've got some really interesting corners, you've got real changes in elevation, actually some really quite steep uphill sections, and you've got sections of track that are really sort of following the contours of the land, and in a way that doesn't happen when you've got a...
Can I just say sweeping curves?
You can say sweeping curves.
Thank you, yeah.
It just gives you a circuit with a kind of character that you don't get from a lot of the other modern circuits, and we love it.
Proper racing. I've never actually been to Spa, though. I must go. Shame on me.
Actually, but between you and me, I was talking with Stevie the other day about whether we might get some kind of Spa trip together next year. So keeping ahead, maybe Spa next year.
Eldest son has been pressuring Dad of all the races. It's Spa is the one I want to go to. What, not Monaco? No, Dad, it'd be too expensive. Spa, we can go on the train from London in 2 hours, he says. And I think he's right.
And it's quite a good one to camp at, I hear, so...
Oh, well, I'll wear pink then.
There you go.
I thought I was Alan Carr then for a moment, chatting about, Alan Carr, I've been watching that Formula 1. Oh, it's terrible.
Come on, that's I don't know. No, that's not Alan Carr.
Not Alan Carr. No. I can't do the goofy teeth at the same time. Sorry, we should be talking about motor racing, shouldn't we? All right. Lewis won. Hooray! Hooray!
And what else happened?
Oh, I forget now.
So there was
an incident with some German lad in a car, wasn't there?
We're talking about Vettel here. We're not talking about the other fellow. Well, actually, no, we'll come on to the other fellow in a minute.
Plenty of Germans, yeah.
Vettel, it's a real shame to see Vettel doing some of the things he was doing over the weekend. He's just sloppy, and it's a real shame. He's got such talent. He's so quick. He comes across as such a likeable guy. I mean, I have to admit, one of the reasons why I'm, as fond of Vettel as I am, is that he likes Monty Python. He likes, a lot of that British humour that I like. And that just sort of somehow makes you warm to him a bit more. And I think he's a decent guy. But all that aside, he's sloppy and he's just way too optimistic in a lot of the moves he's making. And whilst you sort of know on one level that he has the skill to pull all this off, he's not showing that skill when he's actually making a lot of those moves. Quite apart from the fact that he took Button out of the race in a pretty shoddy, careless bit of driving. His move on the Utsi was just, again, he just wasn't leaving enough room. He was just too ambitious in trying to do what he was doing, and cost both of them as a result. He gave himself puncture. It's not just about disadvantaging other people, it's about being stupid, and he was just being dumb on Sunday, and it's a real shame because we know he's better than that, and he needs to pull his socks up.
Well, this is why I like Vettel. I think we're both fans of him. I won't criticise him because I think he's, like you said, genuine talent, capable of extraordinary things. I mean, to win a race in a Toro Rosso shows that you are capable of extraordinary things. No one had managed that before.
Agreed.
But as I was explaining to someone the other day, that Formula One isn't just about your heroes. Like any pantomime, like any opportunity knocks cast, you need the bad guys as well as the good guys. Sorry, I should say X Factor cast, shouldn't I? The bad performance, you watch for the bad auditions as much as the great performances. And what I like about Vettel is that he is unpredictable. Because when Formula One is predictable, in the days when Schumacher would go out and put it on pole, win the race, Ferrari would be 1 and 2, blah, 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 that sort of thing, that takes away the appeal of Formula One to me. It shouldn't be predictable. And the fact that you've got someone like Vettel, who's clearly on the edge, he's a great talent, but makes mistakes, you have your heart in your mouth for that. And whilst I feel genuine sympathy to poor old Jensen stuffed in the side by that Red Bull, in a way, when it happened, I both went, oh, that's terrible, and oh, the pain. It's like opera.
You like the drama. You want that. You don't want a completely uneventful race.
No.
You want some events, and maybe some of those events involve people being unfortunately knocked out of it.
Yeah, exactly. Imagine the situation whereby, and here comes Vettel, he's all over Button, and he's overtaken him without any real difficulty whatsoever and gone on to score 2 points more. That's pointless. The fact that he hits him, great entertainment.
But if he makes a sneaky, smart little nip up the inside and steals that corner and gets through, no contact, just a neat little... Fantastic. That's exciting. It's thrilling. And you love to see the display of that kind of skill. What you don't want to see is somebody, slightly ham-fistedly putting themselves in more or less the right place to get past somebody, but actually making sure that the two cars come together and possibly 2 races over.
I'm just glad he's there. I think it's adding
I'm glad
real
they're
spice.
racing.
Yeah. True, good point.
But I would make this point that when we're sort of going into this year, I was thinking that, the Red Bull drivers, I like them both. I'm not really too bothered about who does better out of these two. There's no question that at this point of the year, Webber is the guy who deserves to be ahead in the championship standings.
He's driving better.
Yeah, he's driving better. He's showing better temperament, and Webber can from time to time be a bit hot-headed himself, but I think he's done a magnificent job this year of reining himself in a bit, maybe just making those slightly better calls, and he deserves to be right there, as does Lewis at the top of the table there. And right now, there's no question that the 2 drivers that deserve to be there are leading the championships. Who would you put your money on at this point, then?
Lewis, undoubtedly, without a hesitation. I do rate Webber. I think he's in a fabulous car. I think he's a smart, sensible, old driver who's capable of top speed when necessary. But at the back of my mind, I've still got the young charger that is Lewis, who, when he appeared in Formula One, was glorious, practically from his very first race. Yes, glorious in his very first race. And the boy who won GP2 in his first season, and the boy who won Formula F3 Euro Series at his first attempt, and all the other lesser formulae, or the one of the lesser formulae if I remember, and karting that he did. It was easy for him. He is a prodigious talent, and I'm not sure that Webber stacks up against Lewis in that way. As much as I love him, and as much as I realise that Webber has the better car, and this could be his last chance to win a World Championship if Red Bull have the advantage this season, I think it's going to be Lewis's. But you know what? I've been wrong in the past.
Yeah, I agree absolutely that the talent that Lewis has, it is on a slightly different level to the talent that Webber has. Fantastic though he is. But As you say, Webber is in the better car. Newey and his team have done a remarkable job this year. They're clearly doing a bunch of clever things all at the same time. It's all working together. He's just worked that Newey magic, and I think that might just be enough to take Webber to the championship this year. But just to get back on one thing, you're talking about how much of a talent Lewis was when he came onto the scene and how he was at the start. One thing that struck me about Spa was in his escape from the gravel trap when he'd gone off towards the end.
It was starting to get wet. He was on his dry tyres again.
He hadn't come in for the intermediates yet, and he was kind of struggling round to do his in-lap for intermediates as the rain was increasing. And he just kept it out of the tyre wall. Yeah. It just struck me that, a year or two ago, he wouldn't have made it. He'd have been a little bit too desperate.
Can you hear?
He showed maturity.
Hang on, hold that thought. Can you hear that Zog is actually rubbing his hands together whilst describing how close Lewis came to that wall? Because it was like that, wasn't it?
But the tyre did just kiss the wall. It just touched it.
You were talking about his maturity.
Yeah, he knew just how much to kind of let the car roll through the gravel, and he was careful. He wasn't giving it any throttle. He wasn't getting buried in there.
It was almost Schumacherian, wasn't it? Because Schumacher would always get away with moments like that, wouldn't he?
He had just the right touch and made just the right judgment to get out of there. And I thought that was quite telling in terms of his maturing as a driver.
As much as we love Vettel, one thing he could do with is just a little bit of Lewis's maturing, perhaps.
Yes.
God blimey, Jensen lover duck, isn't it? It was very good of you to agree to have dinner with me. Yeah, well, Sebastian, you thought it'd be better if we cleared the air a bit after what happened in Belgium. Yeah, Jensen, sorry about that, my old China.
Right, gentlemen, ready to order?
Yeah, I've got another triathlon to run next week, so I'll just have some pasta.
Very well, Mr. Button. And for you, Mr. Vettel?
I'll have the steak, please.
Ribeye? Sirloin?
No, I'll have the T-bone. Oh, sorry, Jensen.
Gareth Jones on speed! No sniff petrol, though! Odd!
We've talked at length about one German who was in the race in Belgium last Sunday. Well, there are 3 other Germans in Formula One that we could talk about. Let's start with Schumacher, shall we? Probably finish with him as well.
I'm still struck, actually, apart from whatever happened in the race, I'm still struck by the way he's coming across in on all his interviews. He seems to have just so remarkably relaxed about how everything's going, which I like to see, actually. Although there is an air of sort of doesn't care about it. Yeah.
But I'm getting paid an absolute fortune. My career's been extended. I got a chance to race against Alonso again and Massa, and the car is clearly brilliant, but so what if I can't make it go quickly?
A lot of people were sort of saying what a good weekend Michael had this time around, because, he'd made up so many places to finish 7th. Point being that for all that he had managed to make up all that ground and had a good race, apart from being taken outrageously easily, by the looks of it, on the straight in a similarly Mercedes-powered Force India, that aside, let's not forget that he was beaten by his teammate. Again, Rosberg beat him.
And in this context as well, I was describing, again to that same person I was explaining to earlier on, this Spa race, or the upcoming Spa race as it was at the time, was so dramatic because we've waited 3 weeks for F1 to come back, so you start salivating. Then you realise, Schumi's going to be racing under a cloud, really, because he's got that 10-place grid penalty from forcing Barrichello into the wall. But this is at a circuit where Schumacher made his debut in that Jordan and put it 6th on the grid. Mm-hmm. Now, if there was any evidence needed that Schumi is a Spa specialist, it's there right from the word go. So he is actually in a position to say, right, I would prove myself how I can do this, with that advantage that he has of knowing Spa so well, of understanding its nuances. He did have a great race. He finished in a reasonable position, but exactly as you said, he was still behind Nico Rosberg. That must really gall him.
The one guy you want to beat above everybody else is your teammate. Yeah, I'm sure he hates it every time he finishes behind Rosberg, and I'm sure Rosberg loves it. On the other hand, it is going both ways. Let's not be too hard on the guy. The testing issue must be really hurting him. You know, the fact that he can't get any testing time, that doesn't help. So if he hangs around and he's there next year, I'm sure he'll be doing better next year relative to how he's been performing this year, but we'll see. Okay, Red Bull, LG Computers advert. Take one. Everyone stand by. And cue Mark.
Hi, I'm Mark Webber. I use LG computers because they're fast, reliable, and at the leading edge of technology. Just like my Red Bull F1 car.
Cue Sebastian.
Hi, I'm Sebastian Vettel. I use LG computers because... sorry, can we go again, please?
What's the problem, Sebastian?
My computer isn't working.
It's the same one that Mark's using. What's happened?
It's crashed. Gareth Jones on speed. You have an accident, we'll rub your nose in it. I was driving back from a gym club earlier on tonight. Not something I do, as you can tell. My finely honed physique doesn't need a gym club.
Absolutely not, Gareth.
But my two sons go to gym, but I'm getting off topic here.
Okay.
As we came round the corner, at the bottom of our road, at the corner of my eye, saw what made me want to shout out, "Hey lads, look, it's the original Honda CRX, the grandfather of the Honda CRZ." No, the short version of the Civic that was turned into a coupe from the 1980s.
Yes.
And then as we got nearer to it, I realised it wasn't the old Honda CRX. It was actually the new one, the CRZ, a hybrid that Honda are making, which I spent a couple of weeks driving and ran you up to the Grand Prix a couple of months ago.
We did the Grand Prix trip. Yeah.
And one that we had was white and very modern, very pristine. This one at the bottom of our road is black. Looked a bit grubby, and that made it look less modern. I genuinely thought it was the old CRX.
One of the things that I thought was most successful about that CRZ was just how elegant it looked for that shape. That sort of bread vanish, chopped off back, the way the window lines are sort of going at the back. The Honda Insight was prototyped for that kind of look in a modern incarnation. Yeah. A horrible looking car, I always thought. The CRZ is a car that manages to do a similar kind of thing. It's the same kind of shape, but it makes it work, and it makes it work beautifully. I thought it was a really, really good looking car, and there were some very interesting things, little subtle things in the way that the panels are working and the lines are working. I'm surprised that you would see a new one and mistake it for those old Civics, really, because they're night and day to me. It's surprising.
Well, it was only a moment.
I know how you can sort of catch something out of the corner of your eye, and actually it's completely different to what you thought it was. But
the fact that it was able to evoke the old CRX just out of a glimpse for a moment was quite interesting, because you're dead right, it's a very modern car. It's got that little shark's fin radio aerial thing that sits on the top that makes it look quite aggressive, and the people who walk past this house when the car was parked outside this house were, that's lovely, isn't it? And I think
it's very good in the white and that sort of slightly
pearlescent.
Very.
As you'll see, there's a picture of it on the Gareth Jones TV website, and indeed embedded in this very podcast. Go and study that car. One of the things I noticed about it, it's very wide. It's very wide. It's as wide as a Civic, perhaps even wider, because it's a sporting car.
Yeah, and it has this funny thing of being wider at a really odd point. The way that most cars work, you've got a little bit of flaring out of the panels over the wheels, and so they're basically widest over the axis lines, really. But the way the panels go at the back of the CRZ, it's not at its widest right in the middle of the wheels. It's odd, but it works.
Because it's just a short, stumpy car, it's almost as if it has been sliced off, like you're cutting through a petticoat, a flared petticoat. It's very difficult to explain if you haven't seen the car, but it does have a bit of a flirtatious, can you see my diffuser? Look at the back, you know what I mean?
Okay, yeah, I think, okay.
Is it showing? I've got an Alan Carr again. Oh. Sorry. It's more like, what's her name, Barbara Windsor, isn't it?
I was trying to put my finger on it, but why I didn't.
I bet you were.
That's what it was. It's because it's Barbara Windsor, not Alan Carr.
It's the same thing.
If you say so.
Anyway, this Honda CRZ, which I quite like, Drove around for a bit, took it up to Derbyshire a couple of times, we went up to Silverstone in it, and got good fuel economy out of it. We got, I remember tweeting about it, and if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, the address is Gareth Jones TV. I tweeted about it that it turned me into a hyper-miler, because this car has 3 modes: economy, normal, and sport. And the dash, did I show you this? The dash
I remember the dash, yeah, the colour of the dash.
It changes colour depending on the mode that you're in. Blue, green, red, or black if you're being evil. Which I kind of like. It was good entertainment, surprising delight feature. But I was getting 50 miles to the gallon on the motorway at reasonable motorway speeds in eco mode. But here's the thing. I wanted to drive that car in eco mode because of the feedback that you get from the data on the dash, and knowing that it's a hybrid and it's recovering its energy every time it slows down, and it's storing that energy to allow you to use it when you need it, and all that stuff that all the guys who drive Priuses and the Honda Civic Hybrid do. All that with a manual gearbox. This is quite unusual. It was kind of an interesting combination. I'm still driving the car. I'm not just a passenger, but I'm working hard at being economical. Found it really satisfying, and it reminded me more than anything of driving my old Lancia, of any car I've driven, because as much as I love that car, it had a flat spot at about 1600. I'm talking about the Lancia now. About 1650 revs, where it goes to pull away, and the engine would just die. You'd have to give it a little bit more, otherwise you would lose it. And this Honda had the same. It required, when you were in economy mode, that you drove it a little bit deftly, because the engine didn't quite have the grunt that you might expect, because it's carrying quite a lot of weight. It weighs about 1,200 kilos, which is quite heavy for a little car like that.
It certainly is. Apart from loving the way I looked, the biggest impression I took away from that CRZ from the passenger seat was
the way you looked, or the way the car looked.
The way the car looked. It was the fact that it seemed to be a little bit underpowered to me. It didn't have quite enough go to match everything else that was going on, the road holding and the sporty look. It looks like a nippy little thing, and it didn't really feel that way. But what you're saying about how your behaviour changed because of the feedback you're getting, and because you're trying to do these things and you're driving to eke out more mileage, because of the displays and because of all the little encouragement feedback from the instruments, basically. There's an interesting thing going on here to do with changing driver behaviour. And
this car did it.
If you want people to drive more economically, it's much more effective to give them a car that's fun to drive economically than it is to keep wagging your finger at them and saying, you should just drive a bit more carefully, or you shouldn't be quite so lead-footed. Or, make it fun and people will do it.
It's a bit like the policy that Violet and I have with our kids about, we try not to say don't all the time. We try and reinforce what they are doing that's right and reward them. Oh, I saw you do that earlier on. That was great. Well done, man. Yeah. That's a much better model, isn't it? And I think you're right. It works in cars as well.
I heard you saying, yes, that not burning down the church you did. That was very good. That was just right. That's the not throwing the petrol bomb into the community centre. That was just the way to do it.
Inner city stuff, the city kids. We live in Hackney, for heaven's sake. But listen, a couple of final thoughts on this CNZ, because unusually for Gareth Jones on Speed, I did something approximating a bit of research.
We haven't got some research?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. It's the spec sheet for the car. Let me bring the light over, because I can't read this. It's so small. Okay, I've got in front of me here the technical data for the Honda CRZ, and it's a nice little 1.5 litre four-cylinder engine with an electric motor as well. And let's just have a look at the performance figures now. Where are we? Maximum speed, 124 miles per hour, which is about the same as my Lancia. It really was. Acceleration 0 to 62, 10.1 seconds. I think my Lancia was doing it about 12, I think. I'd like to check that.
Really? Yes.
I think so.
Okay.
It was pretty quick. Much lighter car, you see. And economy, well, they're quoting 56 combined, 56.5. I would not disagree with that at all. I think it's a very honest spec sheet. However, and it did drive well. Did I mention the bit when I was in Derbyshire? Wiggly roads for a while.
I remember you saying about this, and it's like I say, it's road holding, lovely. It's
stiff enough to cock up a wheel up as well, which was very satisfying. It's wide. It was like
a little bit naughty, but satisfying.
It was. Yeah, but here's my final thought on this. Just been looking. The handling of the car was really very good. Wouldn't say it was exemplary, but really very, very, very good. But I bet there's a Fiesta which is every bit as good, because there have been some great Fords these days. I just had a look at the Fiesta spec sheet. First of all, let's compare the economy and stuff, right? The worst Fiesta in terms of performance, top speed of 94 miles per hour, combined fuel economy of 51.4 miles per gallon. Ford figures, which are usually quite conservative. Oh, here come the MPG police coming to get us. CO2 emissions, 127 grams per kilometre. Just compare that to the Honda. What's the CO2? 117. So it's slightly better than the lowest spec Fiesta. Slightly, right? You can go all the way up with the petrol Fiestas till you get a car that does 120 miles per hour, so almost comparable
so about
to
the same
CLZ,
performance, top speed anyway, as the
134 grams per kilometre for the top petrol car. That's the Duratec TI VCT Stage 5, right? In terms of diesel cars, the worst diesel Fiesta in terms of performance gives you 101 miles per hour, 67 miles per gallon combined, and CO2 emissions of 110.
Now, actually... No, I was going to just point out something that really, really annoys me, but maybe I should come back to it because it doesn't.
Do it now.
Well, here's the thing: you're quoting the figure there for CO2 emissions as well as miles per gallon.
Yeah.
Will somebody explain to me why? I mean, I know why they do it, but
why there isn't a combined figure?
No, you don't need a combined figure because you can get one figure from the other.
Right.
It's like, it's very simple. You burn the stuff, miles per gallon. That is how many gallons you are burning per mile. When you burn that gallon, you get so much CO2. Therefore, you can work out the CO2 per mile from the MPG figure. You do not need two figures. That's why it annoys me. I absolutely understand that it's considered a good thing to put in a figure that gives you a kind of a direct comparison of carbon emissions, so you can get that as a sort of headline figure. But as a science geek, it really annoys me.
Quite right too. And it's the sort of thing that annoys me. That one hadn't yet now until he pointed it out. Oh, it will now.
Okay. Although we should point out that, of course, it is different for petrol and diesel. So in other words, your emissions for a 50 mile per gallon petrol car are not the same as for a 50 miles per gallon diesel vehicle. Okay, continue.
Nice. The best performing diesel Fiesta gives you a top speed of 111 miles per hour, so a little bit slower quite a bit slower than the Honda CRZ, but combined emissions, CO2, 98, it's quoted here, with 76 or thereabouts miles to the gallon. Now, I loved the CRZ. I really genuinely loved it. I loved the way it looked on the outside. I loved the way it looked on the inside. I loved that kind of Buck Rogers dash thing that was going on. There was something Ford Thunderbird retro 1950s about it as well, and yet modern, a bit Dan Dare.
Yeah, good design. No, it was very well. Yeah, I liked the way it looked inside and out.
It was big enough in the back when we folded the back seats down to get the basics of camping in, apart from the tents, which wouldn't fit it. We did have a Mercedes support vehicle.
A 12-person tent or something. It's a lovely tent. It's...
it won't go in a CRZ.
It just won't go in a CRZ, yeah.
Well, my point is, as much as I love that car, for £4,000? £22,000, that car, I bet an equivalent Fiesta with similar performance in terms of road holding, CO2 emissions and performance would be quite a lot cheaper. Just worth thinking about.
You may well be right, but I wonder whether that Fiesta it might be better value, it might not be as satisfying to own in various ways. Pays your money, takes your choice.
I bet the bloke who lives at the bottom of this road, who drives a CRZ, who every time he drives into the West End in his cute little sporting car doesn't have to pay the congestion charge. I bet he's glad he's paid his money and made his choice. I bet he feels nice about it. Yeah. Not smug, but just, oh no, I'm still got a sporting car, I'm quite happy. Yeah. And he's Roger Moore for some reason.
There you go.
You've been listening to Gareth Jones on Speed. We mentioned that Richard wasn't here for some very important reason, and that important reason is that he's getting married this Saturday to his wonderful girlfriend Jules, which we applaud. It's going to be a happy day. Zog and I will both be at the wedding, as will Violet, and I should be contributing to the wedding with some guitar playing as well. So sorry Richard can't be here, but he will be back for the next programme pretty soon.
We'll be dragging him back off honeymoon.
I thought we were actually following him on his honeymoon to record the show.
We better sort this detail out.
Okay, Richard, put her down, mate, and just pick up this copy of Autocar instead. Hey, LT. Say goodbye, Zog.
Goodbye.
And goodbye from me. I'm going to leave you with something I don't think we've ever played on this show before. Some jazz. Nice. I was abroad, and according to legend, I had an insight. Watched it extend its range. Strange, so strange. See me slide in the space in an odyssey. Sexy, civic, sibilant and swish-vied and occupied. Some even tried to go CVCC. Yeah, CVCC. Into a stream of consciousness themed by a sand called Soshiro. Oh no, not oh no, not Yoko Ono, Soshiro. Okay, in a K-car, daddy-o, and the beat grows long. Super Cub, Super Dream, Earth Car, Type R, yeah! Blanco y Negra Integra. From S360 to the S2000. Rice, noodle, alphabetic, spaghetti, CRV, CRX, CRZ, HRV. FCX provides no clarity. Slapping them down. Z600, S800. Watch me land my balloon on your aero deck, baby. I inspired a pilot prelude to a concerto. If I'd have written a poem, it would have been a ballad. It's over, best car they never made. Move over, the Ennova's got all the parts the Ascot's got. Ha! City life, what the heck? Let's all go, VTEC. Asimo looks out of sight, riding in my insight. Shuttle is no go for the Ginther Mugen logo. CB series. Pilot, cross tour, and the future dateline, Ridgeline, just in time. When I'm fit for jazz, that's Honda Jazz.
To send us an email, see pictures, get song lyrics, join our Facebook fan site or follow us on Twitter, go to GarethJones.tv. Gareth Jones on Speed is made in London by Whiz Bang.
Gareth Jones on Speed!